going to actually start at the end of your journey and go back. I have so many questions for you.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Okay. So you lost Ellie and Dwight while technically having an idol. Do you regret not playing it on either person now?
I don't. In general, I don't regret anything about how I played the game. I don't think it's helpful to do that for my own sake. But I also, watching it back, it didn't make sense for me to play the idol for Ellie. That would have just further isolated us and not put us in a good situation moving forward. It would have put both of us in a worse situation, honestly. So, I don't regret not playing it for her. I don't regret not playing it for Dwight because I don't think that just in my mind that's not how I wanted it to be used. And so I really was like envisioning long term it being able to be used for a much more personal, move to be made.
Got it. Why did you pick Dwight when it came to handing off your idol?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what's missing from a little bit of the episode on his vote out was the degree to which we all bonded. Like this whole Baka Vessi relationship started pre-merge. You see that a little bit in the helping with the challenges, but in particular, like Noelle and Dwight said day one on merge, we saw you do the log challenge. We thought you were a badass. We wanted to work with you. And I felt similarly about them. I felt like I had this, I don't know, it's crazy to say when you haven't gotten to even exchange words, but this rapport with them and this ability to, see eye to eye. And what's also missing, you hadn't seen, was we sent Noelle on the journey because Dwight, mouthed to us to send Noelle, and then they go on the journey. Owen solidifies his relationship with her. And then Dwight and them, I felt like we had this tribe trust where when I was sent on the journey with Jesse, I really felt like that was them kind of also sending signals like, we're extending an olive branch. We want you to make this connection with him. And we want you guys to bond in that way. And so honestly, even though as crazy as it sounds, like after 2 days of post merge, I felt super close with them, and close enough to which I was willing to let him hold on to my idol, which is like maybe the biggest thing you can do to show someone that you trust them. And then similarly, Noelle giving her advantage to Owen, like us four were very close and very, wanting to work together. So that's why you see me giving it to him. It was not an arbitrary decision. And I think it was also a decision made because I felt like giving it to anyone on Baka would be even too close to home. So that's why you see the cross tribe swap. That was the rationale.
Got it. When did you find out that Jesse had your idol, and what was your first reaction?
I can't say it'll be a surprise like it was for me. But my reactions were, oh my God, that's my baby. Give me my baby back. I was so shocked and just like honestly maternal. And I think other reactions were like, as a super fan of the game, I was just so wow, like that is kudos, like I am honestly so impressed. I am also so grateful that the blood, sweat, and tears that it took for me to assemble this is not going to waste, and that it didn't just go home with joy.
That's a great perspective on it. My question to you now is, why do you think Dwight gave your idol to Jesse? Because for us as fans, we're like, okay, they had that fracture. Noelle's supposed to be his number one. So it's like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so Dwight, he got spooked right before Tribal Council and was really scared that it would somehow be taken from him. He thought it was a little too close, but he was wary of the fact that people would think that we were, or pick up on the fact that we were close. So he's like, Jesse is yet another degree removed from that. So like, it would be safer in Jesse's hands. There was also another level of he was really trying to save my idol, and he was saying that there was a part of him that he feared would play it for himself if it were on his person, because he'd be scared at tribal and he didn't want to even tempt himself or give himself that option, which is so sweet. I'm like, oh, Dwight. So it was well intentioned, all around. Like he was not trying to. He wanted my idol returned to me at the end of it all.
Yeah. I was just curious of why, like, Noelle, not Noelle.
Right, exactly. For the same reason, where it was clear that Noelle and I were close.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So Cassidy really went to bat for you and argued to James that he shouldn't want to take the bigger guys to the end. He said that you might be strong, not just the dudes. And Cassidy said that maybe it's not the cast intention, but she's tired of seeing all these women go home first. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you brought this up. This was a theme post-merge that was on all of our minds. I mean, that's why you see the decision made to split votes on Ryan and James, because we were like, we need to put votes on Coco. I felt this moral stance of, I don't feel comfortable writing another woman's name down. Noelle felt similarly. And if people feel indifferent about the names, whoever it is on Coco, then that leaves James and Ryan to vote on. And, even out there, I had conversations with Carla and with Cass about how uncomfortable that this was making us. Like, it really left a sour taste in our mouth to know that, like, the superlative of our season so far is that we voted the most women out pre-merge. Like, that's unsettling, and I'm glad that it was shown that she was also taking a moral stance, and because that was something that, again, it was a conversation that we had all had as women, in a level of protection that we wanted to have for each other just because of that. So yeah.
Ryan said when voting you out that you're a wonderful girl and you need to start embracing yourself and being the leader he knows you can be. Do you have a response for that? Like, where was that even coming from?
Oh, Ryan, I love him. I really do. Hearing that, I was a little bit like, okay, I think it feels a little infantilizing, but he means well when he says it. He wasn't trying, to be, have it be condescending, but I just, watching about it was funny because I'm like, yeah, maybe I should embrace who I am more. Maybe I need to, be more assertive or whatever it is. Yeah.
On the other hand, though, when Jesse saw you for that journey, he said it looked like you came to play. You already had scars on your face and knees. Did you anticipate your looks in that way would actually give that read to other castaways of like, oh, this person's probably playing hard?
Well, not necessarily in the chin scrape itself, but definitely in what it took to get it. Like, I said this, but with the log challenge, that demonstrated to not only my tribe mates, but the other teams that, I was there to play, and I was not around. I was gonna play hard, and I was a physical asset, and that I could, do these physical aspects of the challenge and not be fussed about like how I looked afterwards or whatever. Like, I didn't care about how beat up I was. I was constantly just thinking about the game and what would further me in that game. And I thought it was very crucial for me to have, done that log challenge from the get-go in order to prove that I was a physical asset, because we saw on the vote when we went to tribal that first time that we were voting on physical strength. And I knew that cards were not in my favor. I know that as a small Asian woman, like, people are going to assume that I'm weak. And so I really had to just right that wrong from the get-go.
Got it. Do you still have your battle scar?
It's healed. It actually is. Yes. Thank you for asking. But yes, it's fully healed.
Yeah. Okay. Sammy also saw you as a hard gamer, especially when you decided to risk your vote after already knowing you had an idol. For him, he couldn't compute why you would take that risk. What's your perspective on that?
On playing too hard, on Sammy's read, on my playing too hard.
Do you think, first of all, that you're playing too hard if you had an idol and you're like, I still want to risk my vote for whatever this advantage is?
Yeah, no, I didn't think at the time, I knew it was, again, a risk. It was a calculated risk I had taken because I thought that I was in an okay position on the tribe. Like, to his credit, Sammy made it seem like he really did want to work with us. And I really trusted that, we had him as a number, we had Owen as a number, and that Gabler was on the outs on that dynamic. And so that factoring into having the idol, I was really looking at Jesse as kind of my like risk threshold because Geo from the get-go is like, okay, I'm risking it. And so in my mind, I'm like, if Jesse is going to risk it and he doesn't have an idol, I felt like I, presumably would be in a better position to risk my vote. And also just, the super fan me was like, I'll never get this chance again. Like I really was like, this is something that I don't normally, put my neck out in this way. Like, let's just have fun with it. I gotta do it.
I mean, yeah, just as a fan, just thinking of everything you got accomplished, you got an idol, you did take that risk, and then yeah, I feel like everything you could check off, you did. And you made it to the
Except the immunity necklace. I'm like, it
yeah.
keeps me up at night. I'm like, I had one chance to that freaking ball challenge. It's so much harder than it looks. But yeah, that's the one thing that I'm like, I didn't check it off. But
Maybe you'll
who knows?
come back for the
Hopefully,
new generation. I mean, you did
praying.
so okay, going back to the whole Gabler Ellie stuff now. So Gabler said in his perspective, he was giving a B to a friend and then later found out that he gave you an idol. And it was so obvious all of his like animosity or distrust was in Ellie specifically, while you were a friend. So I want to know, did you ever consider playing that middle to your advantage? It seemed like you and Ellie were really going to support each other to the get-go. He did call you guys sisters, but did you ever consider of like, I can actually play up the animosity here a little bit more to my advantage?
The animosity between Ellie and Gabler.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to play into that because I think my goal at that point was to quell it. Like I was like, we all just need to simmer down, vote together for this and deal with it. And at the next tribal, like this, it was so chaotic, right? And so I think, yeah, what you're picking up on is exactly correct. I never had any beef or tension with Gabler. Him and I got along fine, and you'll see that with him voting alongside me, Owen, and Noelle in this last Dwight vote out. And so it was never irreconcilable between Gabler and I working together. It was very much so like this pent up mistrust that he had with Ellie. I think because I was so close with Ellie, that like necessarily lent itself to me siding with her. But yeah, I mean, once she was gone, it wasn't like, okay, bridges are burned, I can't work with Gabler.
Yeah. You said that you used to think it was so whack from Castaways would look and so bad, but you found it necessary to check on Gabler's idol. Now knowing how far that
oh my god. It's so crazy. And what's missing from that is also the fact that I felt like my back was up against the wall because at that point, what I was being told was that Gabler was out to get me because he wasn't going to say, like I think with him with the idol was really scary. Him and I having kind of been on opposing sides of this whole like Baka dynamic where we weren't really close in the early days. I was told that he would be voting my name out because he was had a close relationship with the other people on Baca. So I really was like, okay, pressure's on. Like I have to determine whether or not what he knows or what he thinks he knows. Like that is top of mind for me. And yeah, it's something I was so uncomfortable doing. Like I even to this day I'm watching it back and I'm like cringing and I'm like, oh, you're that person, don't be that person. But out there, it's like you really have to do whatever you have to do in order to play your game. So ugh, not great, not my finest moment, but also
Would you do it
looking back and like
again?
I can't have regrets, I really can't. And yeah,
You can't
it's
have regrets, but you can take lessons. So let's imagine you're in the game again.
yeah. I think of course there's another way to go about it. I think honestly, Gabler was such an upfront person that had we just even asked, like maybe he would have been truthful about what he knew about it. I think it's like when you're out there though, you're playing so much. It's like meta. So it's like you're not even entertaining like the most like straightforward way to
Yeah.
answer your question. You're really like, well, every little thing you do or say has an impact. And so let's do it in the most maybe like conspicuous way possible. And like you just get so inside your head and everyone kind of for some reason we all landed on this idea of like the best way to get this information and not spook him or not indicate to him that we want this information or that we're suspicious of this information is to just do it behind his back.
Yeah. Another a trend really across your whole entire season is when an advantage is had, we share it. And I know you were working really close with Ellie. You both were literally looking for an idol and you found it and you wanted to
Mm-hmm.
share it. But it's always going to be a wonder now, like, because you guys were at the well, even if you're alone, maybe Owen still stumbles on you, or maybe you wander off somewhere instead of going to Ellie and Owen doesn't find you. What do you, I mean, again, it's not about regrets. It's just, do you ever think back of like, okay, if I kept it and play it differently, maybe the whole like tribe doesn't know.
Yeah. I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? Like I'm like, of course it like bit us in the butt to tell Sammy about that. We thought we could really trust him. And then he goes and tells Gabler. I think um that being said, with this advantage in particular, like it relied on social relationships and being kind of group oriented. I think there was no I understand the not sharing aspect of it. I think that Baca had set like a pretty high precedent from the beginning when Gabler shared with us that he had his idol, that this was just like we're in this together kind of and again with that it was like Ellie and I felt like we could really trust at least Sammy and Owen. And so I wanted to be transparent with them about like having this, using it, having it as like an open advantage that we all knew about. But yeah, I definitely agree that it's like the more people who know, the more it can blow up in your face, which it did. So
Yeah. My last question for you is I think a lot of fans are kind of fuzzy on like the alliances at this point. Is there
yeah,
any
yeah.
clarification you can give fans on who's working together based on where we're at? No spoilers.
Right where we're at. Yeah, I think from the Dwight vote out, it was pretty clear what the like 5-7 majority minority was. With mine, I think lines were more blurred because people wanted to be, I mean, being on the bottom is like terrifying. I think what you don't see is like the amount of fear of
Mhm.
not being a part of this seven, this mighty seven, you know? And so,
Sammy has some good thinking. So like, where's Sam?
yeah, I think he was really trying to turn tides in his favor. Like he didn't want to be the seventh of that. He jumped on board right at the end. He really tried to change things and be in a better position with our minority lines, but it didn't come about. So I don't know. It's going to be
We still got
crazy to
that
watch.
seven alliance. Then we're just gonna have to take that for what that is with that vote.
I mean,